That's that real, bro. That's that real. Yo, my people, what's good? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome. Uh, yeah, still a Chelsea fan. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in. It's been a rough 2 weeks to be a football fan. Of course, being a Chelsea fan. Yeah, so I've been waiting, giving myself some time at least to try and be less emotional before I discuss Chelsea or think too much about Chelsea. I just couldn't find it in me to step in the studio, to be honest. It's I could have stepped in immediately after the game and just given my reaction, and it was gonna be very angry, I suppose, very confused and vengeful and all those things. But like, I thought about it and I had to consider all factors, and I think, and I hope rather, that it almost gives perspective of the kind of football fan I am and how I think football has molded me in terms of viewing football, watching, understanding the game, appreciating moments in the game and all those things, So it's been difficult to watch Chelsea. And the Poch out train, it's moving full steam ahead, Everyone wants Poch out. And of course, right after the game, I felt the exact same way about Poch and why is he failing so badly? Like, why is the football bad? Why do the players look like there's no plan when we lack, that confidence? We look so shambolic. It's a young team. You start to give yourself reasons why it's happening right in front of you, and why we can't just put things together, piece things together, and make our football a bit more attractive and make sense. Underlying reasons. The underlying reasons are more than Poch. They're beyond Poch. Hence, has Poch bitten more than he can chew? And I'm starting to feel like he has. For this game, the Wolves game, traditionally we give 4 boxes. We give our 4 boxes to review a game and give our analysis. 4 boxes, and I know them immediately because I'm not going to slander the players. So Todd Bowley, Mauricio Pochettino's team spirit and energy. Team spirit and energy are what we can call almost sub things of Pochettino. They are a result of Pochettino's doing. So it's Pochettino. Pochettino takes a lot of blame in that regard. But why? I don't want to give a history lesson. I don't want to give a history lesson about Chelsea and all the managers we've had and then bring up Abramovich. And you'd assume that I'm trying to remind myself of the glory days. No. Poch is not a bad manager. Is he a bad manager? But he looks clueless right now. He looks so clueless in terms of what he's doing. To track back.
Hey, is it worth it?
Oh yeah, it's worth it. If you're strong enough.
Just gonna be my thoughts over the last 2 decades. 2003 May, Chelsea's history changed, I believe, when we beat Liverpool to gain qualification to play Champions League football the following season. It made us more marketable, and Mr. Bates sold the club to Roman Abramovich in July of 2003. May, Chelsea qualify for Champions League the following season. July, Chelsea are sold. From July, Abramovich finds Ranieri in charge of the club. A lot of incoming players, a very few outgoing players. We signed Claude Makelele in that season, I believe. I'm not sure if we signed Hasselbank that season, but we did sign a few key players. I think Joe Cole as well. Then, Ranieri has a good season. Claudio Ranieri has a good season under Abramovich in his first year under Abramovich. We end up in the semi-finals of the Champions League, and we end up second behind the Invincibles. Regardless of that, Abramovich's hunger is too much, and he sees Mourinho winning at Porto, and he desires that manager for his club. He's capable, so we get Mourinho. And Mourinho does what Mourinho does. Now, from Mourinho, firstly, Ranieri doesn't get the flowers he deserves, I believe, in terms of our history. Hence, I mentioned him. But from Mourinho, outside of the money spent, because a lot of money was spent in Mourinho's first, even his second season. By the second season, Mourinho was flushing out the dead wood and bringing in the class, the quality that he required to do major things, right? Yes. Now, a lot of money spent, quality brought in. Other managers that I'll give a shout out to, Carlo Ancelotti came, found a certain squad, used those players accordingly, got results and won trophies. Gus Hiddink, in situations where Chelsea needed him, he would find a squad, not be able to make any signings, work with the players he had, and get results out of Chelsea. Get us from being in close relegation to at least finishing 10th in that dismal season where Mourinho got fired for the second time. Who else? Roberto Di Matteo. Roberto Di Matteo, yes, not an elite manager, finds a certain set of players, works with them, gets results out of them, wins 2 trophies. Yes, there's passion involved. That's the one thing that this current squad lacks. But outside of that, if we're looking at things from a managerial perspective, game by game, in-game tactics, with the players at hand, all these managers, I think, need to be highlighted. Last mention before we get to Poch, Thomas Tuchel. Frank Lampard also special shout out, and we had a lot of managers in between. Avram Grant was the manager in charge on our run to the Champions League final in 2008. And Frank Lampard, of course, with the number of players from the academy he integrated into the first team to finish in the top 4, brilliant. Thomas Tuchel, we all know what he did for Chelsea, Champions League winner, with a squad that was built by Frank Lampard, yes. And Frank Lampard helped him through the group stages. Tuchel took it on from the knockout phases. Breathe. Mauricio Pochettino. He finds a squad. Yes, new ownership, similar to what Jose Mourinho was working with. I think the difference in conversation is Abramovich says to Mourinho, which players do you need? Let's just get them. There's also this word about Abramovich being confused when he heard the name Drogba, and Jose Mourinho just said, just sign. Mauricio Pochettino is probably not in the same place in terms of when he mentions a player, they don't jump and say that's the specific player we're buying, that's the specific player that we need for Chelsea. Might not be the case, fair enough, but Poch has failed to work with the players he's found. He's allowed players he probably could have worked with to leave without fighting. Maybe the regime was changing, so he didn't have that. In-game management is poor. Playing players out of position. His experimenting is questionable. Playing players out of position is one thing. Chelsea have won, I don't even know how many we've won. I know we've lost 10 out of the 23 games that we've played in the Premier League. We are in the Carabao Cup final. We are still in the FA Cup. If we lose to Villa at Villa Park, the season goes from we're really in the gutter. It's another one to just forget, because that Carabao Cup final is also looking very dim now. So I say all that about all these managers to try and conclude that Pochettino has bitten more than he can chew. These other managers, Claudio Ranieri, Jose Mourinho, Carlo Ancelotti, they brought a style of football that shook England. By shake England, it's different. It's different to what anyone else is doing. They call Mourinho Mr. Park the Bus because he came and he ensured that the most important part of the field was the defensive side of the game. For us to speak of Peter Cech conceding 15 goals in a season, Mourinho had something going on in defense. We just had to be very clinical every time we attacked. There's a famous win against Liverpool where he's there on the touchline. Carlo Ancelotti, 4-4-2, managed to integrate Anelka with Drogba and got Lampard scoring like a striker. Antonio Conte. I think that's the most special mention. In a time where everyone was playing a back four, Conte took an Italian-based back 3-4-3 system and he brought it into England, and Chelsea just flourished. What's similar about Antonio Conte's first season at Chelsea and Poch's first season is that there was no European football in those seasons. Conte brought in N'Golo Kante. I believe he brought in Marcos Alonso. And he called back Victor Moses to play his system. Poch's system over the years has been a 4-2-3-1. But managers have figured it out. And he can't play it as effectively with players that are not established. If you have Son on the wing and Harry Kane, your 4-2-3-1 looks a lot more effective, much better, and you look like a better coach. And you have midfielders with more experience at that time. You have an Eriksen. You have young players now, Poch. In the beginning of the season, Poch did try a back five system. We all desired him to just try what he knows best. When Antonio Conte implemented his 3-4-3, that's what he knew best. That was what he knew best. Yeah, so Poch, I don't know, man. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on Poch. It's a dismal time to be a Chelsea fan because we don't know if we're coming or going. If Poch is to be sacked, then what? It's the first time I've heard a Chelsea manager apologize. He almost admitted that he and his staff are not good enough for the job. That's the first time with all these managers, that revolving door under Abramovich, none ever publicly stated that we are failing and we're not good enough. And Poch has done that. Can Poch turn this around? I'm not on the Poch out train yet. Might be in a few days, depending on how we perform against Villa, honestly. We move.